Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today's video we're going to be covering how we feed our beef cattle. We're going to be going through some of the products we're using, what we do, and get a bit of footage of it all as it's happening. We are kind of set up, ready to go. 2850 is in position. We have got our straw here in the bucket. The straw is part of a fibre source. These are all made with a square baler, so they are quite finely chopped compared to, say, if it was baled up with a round baler. And then it runs in the feeder. The feeder has knives in it, and it'll chop it another bit as well. So by the time it's all finished, straw should be only a couple of inches long, and it's a much better length for the animal and their rumen. So some of the products we use as well, we use bicarbonate of soda, which is for basically to keep acidiosis down in the animal's stomach. When you're feeding a strong ration, you need to feed something then to combat acid in their stomach basically, and that can cause issues and even can lead to an animal's death if you don't treat it or have something preventing it in the feed. So that's one of the products we're using. The other product you see here is a mytoxin binder. So that's basically for some of the feeds may have little toxins in them. If there's enough of those and the cattle are getting them over a certain length of time, the toxins can also cause issues with the cattle, whether it's sore feet, busted tails, and issues along those lines. So we're feeding something to prevent that as well, prevent the mytoxins causing any issues. They also get a mineral mix into the ration as well, and yeah, that just keeps all that end of things right. So more or less ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the camera up in the teleport. I'm going to put the drone up. We'll get some footage that we can overlay on that as well, and just as I'm going through filling the feeder, I'll tell you what we're putting in and why we're using it and all about it. So let's get going at it. So let's get going at this. First thing we're going to put in, as I say, is the straw. We get it in there now and we get it mixing away. We've also put in, just before I pull the tractor into position, we've put a pot ale syrup in there as well. The syrup has, well, it is two, let's get that down. Yeah, it's got two things in the that it takes to the ration. One, it helps to moist the feed up, which will help to help with the intake for the cattle themselves. They'll eat a little bit more when the feed is moist, and the other thing it does too, it adds protein to the ration, so it helps to get your protein up to where it needs to be. This next ingredient we're putting in is basically the same as soya hulls. It's a byproduct from making porridge. We put about 150 kilos of it into the feed now. It's quite dusty, as you can see. In windy conditions, it's it that you usually lose a little bit of, and it most likely either ends up on the window or all over the teleporter or all over the tractor and the diet feeder. Next product we're putting in is ground maize. So this is where some of the power on the feed itself is coming from. Yeah, the maize meal adds plenty of energy, and we usually don't feed that much of it at this point of the year. We'll up the amount of it a little bit later on, for say the last maybe 6 weeks that the cattle are in and on the finishing ration before they go for slaughter. So we'll up the rate of it then over the last 6 weeks, and it usually puts a fairly nice finish on them. The other two ingredients now that we're going to be putting in, this one here now is our own barley, which is grown on the farm. We haven't got that much barley this year because well, we didn't grow that much of it. It was mostly wheat that we grew this year, but we have a small amount of it. and we feed accordingly then to the amount that we have. Both the barley and the wheat are both treated here on the farm, so we take them through a treatment process that increases the amount of protein in the actual feed. So we've been doing that for the last number of years, and we've perfected it fairly well, and we're very happy with it. It's treated and then stored on the farm after it's treated. So yeah, that works very, very well. So just moving in now to where the wheat is. It's in this other side. Get another little bit of wheat in there. So this is the final part of the meal now added to the ration. Now we want to take her up to, perfect, let's take her up to 1,000 kgs altogether. Now the next part of the ration that we have to get is, we have to get some silage. Alright, so heading down to the silage bit now. We're just going to get some silage for the feeder. A question I've been asked quite a few times in the last month or so. There's been, on different times, we've had a few different shots of the silage pit, and people have been asking me, how's the silage going? Are you going to have enough silage? Are you going to run out of silage? What way is it progressing? Well, we're back about 2.5 links into a 5-link silage pit. So we're around halfway, let's say. But it wasn't filled right out at the very front, and it was probably about quarter of a link, third of a link back from the very front, and then on top of that, the front link and a half was only fairly shallow. Like, it started off, it was only a couple of block widths high, and it's gradually gotten taller. So we've really only come into the tallest end of it, and we're halfway through. So I would imagine now that it should slow down going back a little bit. That coupled with the fact that we will be reducing the silage usage down a little bit on the beef and cattle. So I think we should have enough silage. We have a whole other silage pit down the bottom. It's much smaller, but it still has about 30 acres of silage in it. So that was mostly second cut silage. So I think we should have enough. And silage quality is very good. Very, very happy with it this year. Here I'm just heading down now to get some potatoes. I was being very careful here because the trailer that we've done the work to could have been very easily gotten and shot, and I just don't want to show it yet. It's more or less finished, waiting on some lights for it. But once the lights come, I'll do a video on the whole trailer, or maybe I'll see. Maybe over Christmas I might do a video on the trailer, and we'll do a separate video then, maybe fitting the lights to it or doing something like that. I'm not just sure. We'll see how it works out. Potatoes. We've loads of potatoes. You can see there's 2 full loads tipped down the bottom in the pile. Another one there, see it on the trailer, and I have to pick another load up this week, along with a load of maize meal. So we've lots of potatoes to do us right into early January now, and great to have them, because I have upped the potatoes a little bit over the past couple of weeks, because they are coming just plentiful at the moment, and that's the way we want to keep it. We want to feed. We like to feed plenty of potatoes. There's pluses and minuses with them. The plus with them is, if you're feeding bulls, they do tend to put a good fat cover on the bulls. The downside of that is, if you're feeding heifers or bullocks, they can very easily put them, the heifers or bullocks, over fat. Whereas, early, rather than let them get into good weights. Whereas if you're feeding beet for heifers and bullocks, it doesn't put as much fat on, and it helps to it just allows you to get them into heavier weights, which can be very much beneficial. But we love this feeding the potatoes. We always have done, and we probably will do going into the future. But yeah, there's the feed, mixing nicely, and we're ready for discharging. Alright, so the feeder's filled. You don't leave it chopping for too long. There's a full set of knives in this feeder, and they're all sharp and working well. So about 2 minutes, and that's plenty. You leave it too long, it chops the grass and the straw too fine, and the cattle don't seem to like it or eat as much of it. So 2 minutes usually enough, and we'll get going and get feeding.
Fill me out with your smile, now the sunshine brings the light. Fill me out with a flame, I will let you in this game. Take me out when I'm down, 'cause with you I'm safe and sound. 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 I'm safe and Bring that beat back.
So it's about an hour later, finished feeding. In fact, you can see a lot of the cattle now are just starting to lie down in at the back. They've had their fill and they're just having a bit of a relaxation. But yeah, lovely feed. As I said, with the syrup we add into it, it leaves it nice and moist. Cattle eat more of it that way, and yeah, there's lots of meal through it there. A good bit of silage still in it. We will be reducing down the silage a little bit more now once we get into the new year, and by doing that then we'll increase the meal, and it's changing ration will help the cattle. Then it just switches them on a bit more. They'll start to flesh up faster, and then, as I say, for the last weeks then we'll also up the amount of maize meal in the feed, and it really works well. A lot of the potatoes will be eaten, but if you kind of dig down here to the sides you'll always find some of them. They do sort through a little bit on the spuds. They'll sort through, look for them first, which is it's all part of it. We could chop it, we have a chopper there, but find that unless the potatoes was very, very clean and no stones, it causes issues with the chopper. So we just use the chopper for beet. We have used it for potatoes in the past, but stones going through, it breaks off some of the teeth on the chopper, and it's not good for it. So we don't chop the spuds unless they were very, very big potatoes. Then we might chop them. But yeah, cattle are doing well. These are some of our beef bulls, but yeah, doing very well. We kind of have them just simmering away nicely. We're not pushing them overly hard yet, but as I say, that will start. They'll be getting pushed a little bit more now after Christmas, and we'll get them into some good weights, hopefully. So that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed this little insight into some of the feeds that we're using when feeding our cattle. Yeah, it's part of the everyday routine, but it's nice to be able to take that and show it to you and show you what we're doing as well. So hope you enjoyed that. If you did, don't forget to hit the sub button, leave a like in the video, comment down below if you have any questions or any comments on what we're doing. If I can, I will try to get back to you. Yeah, and that's it for today's video. Hopefully I have another video up in a couple of days' time. Maybe have one up on maybe 23rd, 24th, and we'll have one up then straight after Christmas as well. So we'll get a few videos up over the next week after this one. So that's the plan, have a bit of content there for you to watch around Christmas. But yeah, that's it. We'll see you later in the week.